So what is critical race theory? Right? I actually came to critical race theory. I'm not going to show that slide. An article that I had read in the Chronicle of Higher Education in 1993. In the summer of 1993, I read this article on page 8 of that newspaper, where they used the word critical race theory. I never heard the word before. When I read the article, I realized this is something important. But I also recognize this is something familiar. And the familiar part of it was the research that I had been doing in ethnic studies, African American studies, Chicano studies, and that was the familiar part of it. But critical race theory, this is a polarizing filter, for those of you who are photographers. And you know that a polarizing filter does a number of things, but it saturates color. It brings out the color in a particular scene. But what it also does, have you ever been in a situation like in the back there, that window, that reflection off the mirror? We can't see what's on the other side of that mirror because of the reflection. The eye won't allow you to do that. But what a polarizing filter does, in the front of a single lens reflex camera, you twist this ring right here, and you can see what the eye can't see. It takes the glare out, and you can see inside, right? So it's an amazing tool for photographers. But as a researcher, a theory is a lens through which we observe and interpret social life. That's what theory is. As a sociologist, as a social scientist, that's how I use the tool of theory. It helps me interpret social phenomena. When I see something, a theory often comes to mind. How do I explain what I'm seeing? When I work with young people, as young as elementary school kids, children, students, I ask them to interpret what they're seeing, and they're theorizing, right? They're theorizing. There's some amazing theories that come out of the minds and mouths of young scholars in kindergarten through third grade. But a theory is a lens to which we observe and interpret social life. As you turn the lens, things become clear. I would argue that as you turn use a critical race lens, race and racism come into focus, because they're central to the analysis, right? And I have to say this, is that in my work, I don't apologize for doing this work. I don't apologize for centering race and racism in the work that I do, right? That's not all that I do, because if you look at my working definition of critical race theory in education, I argue that critical race theory is the work of scholars, like many people in this room, who are attempting to develop an explanatory framework that accounts for the role of race and racism in education. See, I developed this definition for education scholars, because that's what I was working at the time, right? It's now used in other fields. It came from the law, but it's used in education, it's used in the humanities, it's used in the social sciences, but it's an important, what I think a really important framework to use as we do this work, and works towards identifying and challenging racism. So there's this social justice element to critical race theory. It's just not about observing and interpreting. It's about engaging as part of a larger goal of identifying and challenging all forms of subordination. So race might get you to a place, but it can be about gender, class, sexuality, immigrant status, etc. So it's that intersection that critical race theory takes us through, by way of a racial focus, a race and racism focus. So that's my working definition of critical race theory in education.